have a motion to go into open session?
So moved. What page are you?
I have a different thing.
Oh, yeah.
For the secondaries, but,
where are we?
oh,
47, I believe.
That was right there.
okay.
Motion to approve the last one.
Yeah. So can we get a motion to approve the minutes from
Oh, yeah.
our meeting October 6th?
So moved.
Seconder? All in favor?
Aye.
Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda of tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second? Brian? All in favor?
Aye.
And if there's any conflict of interest with any items in the agenda this evening?
Oh,
Consent agenda. And there's no presentations tonight. And committee reports? None. Item 8, or 8 in my package, consideration of issues separated from consent agenda. I don't believe there's any. And item 9 in my package, the internal monthly report. Chief.
Internal monthly report, we had one complaint in the month of October. We had 3 complimentary correspondence, no grievances.
Receive and file.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The update on the CAPG board position, Nicole did resign her position on the board, and the board is looking for an alternative person to fill that role, which is something that she was unable to fulfill right now because it required some out-of-province travel and a pretty big commitment.
They're looking for somebody from our table?
I don't know, they just replied back that they would be seeking somebody to fill the, I don't think it was specific to here, to our table.
Oh,
but
for New Brunswick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we need to
Receive and file.
Yeah. Seconded?
Oh,
Brian?
sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
I was dozing there.
Item 9.3 in my package is New Brunswick Police Act revision meeting update.
Oh, she's not here.
At the table. Yeah.
Table to next one.
Yep. And item 9.4 is the overtime and court time expense. Chief or Marvin?
Marvin, please.
Marvin?
Okay, thank you. For the period in September of this year is before you have a report. It's a regular report we provide to the board on our overtime expense and court time expense. And for the month of September, we were, the net overtime costs, we were, let's see here, get my line straight here. We were $44,000, $45,000 over budget. And year-to-date for overtime, with reference to the cost piece, is we're $110,000 over budget at the end of September. Court time, on the other hand, is in September, we're just slightly over based on our budget by $2,000. And year-to-date, the court time is we're $76,000 over budget. And the real report that we sort of look at is the utilization report, to give you an idea of where the money's, the hours are spent. And the recommendation here is for this report to be received and filed unless there's some question.
We had, we talked about this a while ago, about working with the court.
Yes.
And there's programs, I think it's Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia, Ontario has a program where the police department works with the court, tries to schedule.
That's ongoing now.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
we're doing it
ongoing.
now.
The deputy and other people are still working with the Crown to try to minimize the number of people going to court.
Yeah.
But that's an ongoing thing. But in the last few months, through the deputy's office, they have realized a number of opportunities where we didn't have to send people to court. I think Debbie, that would be a fair comment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what province is going to seen it someplace, they have a program.
Well, we used to do it here as well. We would
Okay.
take over, or, you know, but then it become the judge's time and the
Yeah,
prosecutor's
yeah.
time, and it
It's hard to-
become, not attainable, and it just went by the wayside, so. Hopefully there's something that we can get back to maybe.
That's what I was thinking, that might cut, you know,
But-
someplace that we can.
Again, you know, they call us the court, they're trying to streamline it, they have cut back a number of officers, they're taking a second look even from their, Luke Labonte, who's in charge, Farrington, they did a lot of things themselves to try to cut down costs, so we're working towards it, and they're also looking at, disclosure, different electronic disclosure, so which should
Okay.
save money, hopefully in the long run. So get on board there.
So can we get a motion to receive and file the, that report, sorry, the overtime and court time expense report?
So moved.
Seconded. Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
So Marvin, leading into the next
Yes.
one, the utilization report.
Thank you. The utilization report that we started a few months ago is to give the board an understanding of what we budget for hours for our overtime, and more importantly, what are we sort of spending or using monthly based on budget. And you'll see for the month of September, our budget allocation or hours available was 529, and we were just over 1,000 hours that we use in September, which is a variance of 523 hours. Year to date, you're going to see that our variance based on budget was just under 2,000 hours over our budget allotment. But if I take you to the second page of the report, this is really where it highlights where our overtime hours are going. So if you use that number that we had a budget of 4,400 hours that we could expend on overtime, you're going to see almost all of that, not all of it, but 90% of it at least, was used to backfill shortages on shifts. So if we didn't have shortage on our shifts, then our overtime would not have been so high, so to speak, as far as utilization. So the correlation here is that other than investigations, where we were 700 hours over budget, which is criminal investigation, all our resources were put into backfilling shifts. And year to date, it was 291 shifts that we had to backfill because we did not have our minimum deployment numbers. So that's what I want to highlight for the board is that's where our overtime for the most part is going, is backfilling. And again, as we said before, a reduction in our number of people working on shift, and we get that minimum number, we have to hire. And that's what this number really indicates to, which is important why this report shows you the trend. And it's still climbing.
Continue.
Now, this is the end of September, with 3 more months to go. So we're going to be well over 300 and some shifts for the year, probably go close to 325, 330, depending on
So
all
it's,
the rest.
that reflects about 1.5 men.
Exactly.
That
Yes.
number
Yeah,
right
we're
there.
almost up to 2 FTEs.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
4,400 would be around 2, so.
Yeah, 2080 is what we use,
Yeah.
you're correct. So that's where our overtime is, that's the constraints that we're working with. And so I think this report, unlike the dollar one, this really shows you where our resources are being deployed from an overtime perspective.
So you're saying-
That just gets us the minimum staffing levels.
Yeah.
So you can't work with less than 10 people on a shift?
That's correct.
Not allowed
Contractually, we're required to have those numbers, and realistically, and I know the operation people speak to us, it's an officer safety issue too. When you get 10 people coming in the city, that's not very many people for a city our size, right? So it's a contractual obligation for minimum deployment, but then there's this real issue of officer safety that we
12, John, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night is 12.
Yeah, it's weekend evenings, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that we have 12 in the evenings, but it's, every other time it's 10. So when we get below 10, that's when we have to hire. We have no choice but to hire based on the contract. But when you think about it, 10 people for a city this size is not many.
Well, is there an increase in the amount of injuries or sickness?
I would say the sickness part is consistent with previous years, just we have less people on the platoons and the time off. It's like, if we have 20 people on a platoon, and right now the contract allows us to have 7 people off, you're already at 7 regardless before you start doing anything, sick leave or anything like that. So it doesn't take long to get to 10. on a good day, so.
Well, then you're looking at holidays too, thrown into that.
That would be that 7 number that I talked about, so if you want to use the word buffer or cushion we have, is really there isn't one there when you think about it.
So how does that impact training
There's the other
and
thing.
development, right? If you're always only at minimum?
It's one of the challenges, we talked about some training initiatives,
Yeah.
and the challenges are is staffing the platoons
Right.
so we can send
Provide
people on
training.
training. I mean, we're kind of handcuffed on
Part
our training.
part of the carbine training is in here backfilling 12-hour shifts.
Right.
Because we've sent 2 people out, so that's 8 a week, 2 off of each platoon
Yeah.
to get them. And I think we're maybe 100, Dave, you got trained, carbines, or close to it?
This is our last week and all patrol except for me, 5 will be trained.
So we're, well within 100 or more. And
And this is
some of it-
mandatory training.
Some of it's.
I
Yeah,
understand
it's
they
not,
can
but
take
you're right.
certification, things like that, it's just mandatory training we're trying to do here, so. Anyway, again, the board can see that as we trend to the end of the year, that's where our overtime for the most part is being spent.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second there?
Oh,
Right.
sorry.
All in favor?
I was thinking,
Aye.
I start at when I get to my age, well, mine starts.
The skateboard helmet, we're looking for an update. I know that was
That
Anne
was
Marie.
Anne Marie,
yeah.
It was, so maybe we'll table that until, or if you want to give the update, I guess.
What
you can.
was it she was looking for?
It'll be minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think it's important before we get into the actual procedure that we're following under the bylaw, we give a little bit of history for the members of the board who are not involved in this. But prior to the skateboard number 1 being approved, that's one down here by Harbor Station, committee was formed to visit parks and different areas around North America. This was done under the city's leisure services division through Burns and Morrison. The issue of helmets was looked into quite extensively, and they adopted the practice of best practices from around the cities that they developed. But one of the key recommendations that come out of that group was that helmet use should be encouraged through peer education programs with local skate parks, shops, sponsors, and promoting the use of helmets. Helmet-free campaigns were suggested. That's where we do different events and people receive a helmet for free. The forest has run at least 3 of these campaigns for our community services officers in the last year and a bit. One of the things that was highly recommended by this committee was that do not enact the bylaw to enforce. It would just bring the skater community into conflict with the authorities, such as recreation staff and the police. The legal services of the city was advised and did post clear signage of all the parks and the areas that were allowed to do skateboarding, that includes Rockford Park. The wearing helmets is strongly advised, all skaters use the facilities at their own risk. And this approach was adopted by Leisure Services when the skateboard park was approved by council. Council was aware of this approach when we went to council. So when it comes down to enforcement, we're left under the bylaw with 2 avenues to proceed. One is a CPL ticket, the other one is a provincial offense appearance notice. There's nowhere in the law today that allows us to arrest for a bylaw. So we either have to give a ticket or give the appearance notice, for lack of a better way of saying it. The problem with that is that there's no requirement for the youth to identify himself for us to issue a ticket. So if we don't have the authority to arrest for the ticket, then their only other choice would be to arrest this young offender for the criminal offense of obstructing a police officer in the execution of his duty. That's one of the things that we don't want to do. When we went to legal and asked for the procedure for ticketing, we were advised by city staff, the legal staff, and they are the ones who do the prosecution under the city bylaws, not the Crown prosecutors, it's actually city legal staff. They're telling us that there's nothing in the bylaw that would force the young offender to attend court. There's no way, as with some city bylaws, we can get a committal warrant for their arrest where they're arrested for non-payment of their fines. That is not allowed under this particular bylaw. The only other option we'd be left with, and if you have somebody that's going to stop, volunteer, give their name and information supports the right of provincial appearance notice, then, and only then, can we get to the point where we can get them to court. And again, under that, there is the option of a committal warrant being issued for their arrest and get them to pay the fine. If we go by the way of appearance notice, which we have used in the past, especially for the noise bylaw, for chronic offenders, we put them on a probation, which would say not to ride a skateboard on the streets of the city of St. John. If they violate that, they commit a criminal offense. Again, you're giving young offenders criminal records for skateboard use. So, the recommendation that we have always followed and we continue to follow at this point in time is education programs and trying to develop partnerships with the youth to get them off the street. The amount of staffing that you'd have to put into this in order for enforcement would be huge. The return on it would be less than satisfactory, and you're going to end up with a lot of young offenders with criminal records, which normally would not. That's basically what we have today. We have adopted the education and free public use program rather than through enforcement.
I think what Emery sees, and we do sometimes ourselves, is somebody going down King Street on a skateboard, which is very unsettling if a car pulls out or somebody's on a bike or somebody gets hit. So obviously we wouldn't chase them in a cruiser, but you try to catch up to them at some point to have a conversation to educate them that would be proper to do what you're doing, right? So, you know, years ago it was a problem in King Square. They were skateboarding using park benches and stuff. So again, it's all about education, and we'll try to get out there and do the best we can through the community and get down to the skateboard park again.
And that falls under CSU, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Anyway, so and they do talk about that, like helmet safety and
Yeah,
grade 2 is a
absolutely, yeah.
huge program.
Try to do their best,
Yeah.
but there's a few people that probably go up and down King Street
Yeah.
much too often on the skateboard, and
Yeah.
hopefully somebody doesn't get hurt. I think that's a concern, right?
Yeah.
We have done the reach out again, right?
Yes, we've done 3 times, and we're going to be scheduling another one in your future.
We'll receive and file the report.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
And 9.7 and 9.8, I believe are both going to be Marvin. So 9.7 is the 2015 operating budget, the August financial results, and then the PSSC budget for their August financial
Thank you very
results.
much. The board had a chance to look at the report, and I guess, like I say, this is sort of a good news story for the police force. I'd just like to start with that because considering the budget that we were working with this year, we were able to identify some savings, primarily from attrition, staff within the organization. Our salaries are down for the year by about $360,000 as of August. Obviously, our overtime costs are up $123,000 over budget, and court costs is $71,000. But currently, right now, at the end of the month, when we look at August at a glance, our goods and services are $390,000 under budget. But we know there's a number of things that have not transpired from in the month of August, but that have happened in the last couple of months. That being said, what we're doing for up to the end of this year is any savings that we recognize in our salary lines due to retirements during the year, we're going to use those monies to offset any overtime that we've incurred that exceeded budget. And by doing that, what we're really trying to do is balance our budget by having less people and use those earnings or wages to cover the overtime costs that we're incurring. The only thing I would highlight when we look at overtime for our sworn members, where the bulk of the overtime, actually the majority, if all of it, it's related to the police side, not the civilian side, is that it's important the board knows this, and I know you do, is that in the last 5 years we've had a reduction of 20 police positions in the police force, and what that does, and I highlighted this just earlier in the utilization report, is we're spending a lot of our our budget on backfilling shifts, and as a result of that, it's something that it's really not so much out of control, but it's just taking away from other budget dollars to cover the overtime. And on the court time, we had a conversation earlier that we're doing everything we can with the court system to try to bring our court time costs down. And on goods and services, we're under budget as well. I guess the good news I'd like to share with the board is, based on our projections and certainly conversations we've had in the last couple of weeks, is we are anticipating that we're going to be about $100,000, $125,000 under budget. I say that in a cautionary way because this year we have 53 pays, so we have to cover some of that with that 53rd pay budget. We think we can achieve that based on what we know even up till today. There could be incidents that happen that we don't foresee that may change it. So I share that number with you cautiously because there could be expenses we incur. But I think this is a good news story for our organization that we were able to balance the budget and I guess return some money back to the general fund. At the end of the year, that's our plan if everything goes well. So we say it's just over $100,000 and we think that's achievable. And I just wanted to highlight that to the board because we've done a number of things this year to try to balance this budget. And I certainly congratulate the management team on working hard to do that as well.
Just to emphasize what Mark was saying about this kind of things, the code station, which is a device we use to shoot accident scenes and crime scenes and measure and charting, cracked out today, so we had to order a new one today. $8,000, right?
Yeah.
Probably about $8,000 for one of those. I mean, that's just the kind of stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In your report, you said that your revenue exceeded expectations by 65,000. How much revenue have we made so far to date?
Our revenue for the year is actually in the body of the report. I can highlight that for you.
I missed it.
Our budget, our budget was $610,000, and we came in with 675. So that's that $60,000 number. Sometimes that's timing on when we bill, because most of our revenue was derived from secondments. $530,000 is our secondments, so it depends on when we bill. And this year, these reports are done sort of trimester. Every 4 months, we bill every 3 months, so there's no overlap there. So I would suggest to you our 916 number that we have for the whole year will come slightly over that from a revenue perspective.
The money, so, just so I'm clear on this, the $665,000, that goes right into the city's bank account? Not
Goes into the city's general fund under revenue.
Okay, so is that calculated then when we talk about being over or under our budget? Or is that taken out of the equation altogether?
We are talking, when I say we're going to be $100,000 under budget, that's on the expense side. So we could even do better if we overachieve on the revenue side. This body of this report really is speaking on the actual
Expenditures, I know,
yes.
but it all adds up.
No, exactly.
So what I'm saying to you is, the $665,000 that goes into the city's general fund
Yes.
is not reflected in terms of what the department bottom line is.
No, it does.
It does?
In the first page of the report, you'll see I reference, I say that the net operating expenses, that's a combination of our total revenue and expenses. So we have to net that because the money, the net amount of money we get from the city councilor is the difference of those two, right?
Yeah, okay.
But the $100,000 that I'm anticipating to be under budget is on the expense side only. We probably are going to generate a little bit more revenue, so it's going to be the number is going to be greater than 100 as far as its overall savings for the city.
Okay, but the revenue is already taken into consideration when you talk about balancing the budget.
So if like what you're saying, John, if that revenue is coming into our pot instead of the city's bank account.
That's not correct.
No.
That's,
No, it's not coming in, but he's saying,
no,
what
I'm
if it
saying
were?
it's not, but if it was, would that show us this being under budget?
Well, what happens in the city, is the city does two budgets. It does the revenue side, which the bulk of that is the residential tax and things. And then when they find out what the revenue side is, it says, okay, how much can we spend on expenses? There's the expense budget. What I'm saying here is We believe at the end of this year that we're, on the expense side, we're gonna be $100,000 under budget. We may even do better if our revenue exceeds our projections. That will ultimately affect the consolidated budget of the city. So we could improve our position even more on the revenue side as well. But just on the expense side, we anticipate to be about $100,000, $125,000 under budget. Does that help clarify?
Well, I'm still, I mean, it's clear as mud for me, I'm not a financial guy.
What they want to know is if we got $24 million and we had $900,000 in revenue, are we really getting $23,100,000 plus the 900 to make the 24?
No.
Okay.
What we're doing is, if I take you to the third page, we speak to the $23,559,000 budget. That is the budget envelope the city's given us to spend for expenses. What we have said to the city is, thank you very much, but we're going to generate some revenue to offset this, and you're going to get that revenue. So when you net everything out, our actual budget, if you go to the next page where we have the service-based budget, the budget is 2015. Even though the city gave us $24,000, our general funding requirement out of that fund is $23 million.
Right.
So we're needing less money to operate the facility. Or
Right.
this
So we're getting less than.
Does that help better if you look at that?
Okay, so I guess
For
that's,
every bit of money that they're generating in policing a dance, hypothetically, then that money comes off of the budget that you would be,
That's right.
the city would be giving
Does that make
to the
sense
police
now?
department.
Does that help?
So if you, the counselors, say you're gonna get 24 million, every penny they make in revenue comes off of that, so you give less.
that's exactly what I'm getting at. So the true budget that we got from the city of St. John
Is not.
after we repay them, the revenue that we generate, is actually almost $1 million less.
Absolutely, if we can achieve those revenue targets, so that's the thing, we gotta make sure we achieve the targets of revenue.
Okay.
So that's why when the year's over, that's when we can sort of add everything up and say, how well did we do? And the revenue part, as we know now, will exceed that 916 number. But,
Okay, so when we talk about coming in under budget,
Yes.
we're talking about coming in under the original budget given by the city of St. John.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So with that, we don't have a quorum, so
Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to finish that one.
I didn't want to interrupt that, but
Okay.
since his worship.
Everything's
left-
tabled till the next meeting.
John, is that a little clearer for you on the other side?
Now it's clear as ice.
It's better than mine.
That is the one. Thanks, Marlon.
We'll adjourn